Hello everyone and welcome to part 7. Today we're talking a little bit about coloring tools, and I apologize that I was offline for the last 2 weeks, but you know, life sometimes happens. So today we're gonna have a quick look at the coloring tools close to my heart offers in the catalog, and at a later point I will actually do a couple of coloring 101 videos where I can go over each of those individual ones and show you how they work. But for now, let's talk just a little bit about what is available and what you can use to color in. What do I mean with color in? Well, you know, when you sometimes stamp and you have these beautiful, let's look at this one here, for example, outlines. And sometimes that's okay to use it on a card like this just without coloring, but usually a little hint of color will always make it just more interesting. So what do you do and how do you get color in them? Well, one part is you could stamp in black ink on a design paper and cut it out and paste it on top. Then you don't have to color at all. Or if you're like me and you love to color because it's kind of like relaxing, there are different varieties, and depending on what of those individual tools you use, that depends on also what kind of outline ink you should use. But again, this is too complex to go through in one video, so I will explain this at a later point, so you know exactly what goes with what. For now, let's have a look what we have in the catalog. Well, these are the newest tools, and these are called Tri-Blend markers by Spectrum Noir. And the neat thing about them is you actually get 3 in 1. What does this mean? Well, you get 3 individual colors in one marker. As you can see here, they're all together. And these are the colors. For example, this is hydrangea blend, and it's 1, 2, and 3. The numbers, if you're not familiar with the number system, it basically we were taught in the past that if you use numbers, let's say from a spectrum from 1 to 10, to make a nice blend, you want to get as close the numbers together as possible. So let's say a 1, a 3, and a 5 would be okay, or in this case naturally 1, 2, 3, perfect. Plus you get literally 3 different shades, and when you flip them around it actually shows you. So this is a lighter color, the medium, and the darker one. And there are different ways of using alcohol markers. Oh yeah, these are alcohol markers. So they go into your white cardstock really fast. They bleed through. What that does, what do I mean with that? By that is when you have cardstock, and let me grab a cardstock here. And I don't have my markers in 3. I have the old-fashioned one, so they came in 3 different markers. This one, like I said, is 3 in 1. So let's go with the darker color. So if I color with the darker color, and then go over with the lighter one, and this is not how you're supposed to color, but what I mean is by bleeding through is when you look on the inside of your paper, you can see how the color is bleeding through. So this is one downside when you're using alcohol markers, is that it goes through the paper really easy and quickly. And depending on what your project is, and you don't want to have this shown on the inside, you might want to think about either coloring on a separate piece of white cardstock and then add it to your front card so the back is covered, or use a different medium. So these markers are really great, and we have a whole different variety of colors in them. Let me get my book. Totally prepared. Totally prepared. Here we go. So these are our Spectrum Noir markers, and we have a deeper colors blends And we have the Essential Blends, which is just a lighter version of it. And you can see you get browns, greens, so you can pick individual markers, anything you need, and they will give you 3 different shades of one color, so that makes it really easy to blend. And like I said, they come in this package here, so all 3 are together, 3 in 1. You have only the small tip, while the old ones came with a chisel tip and the fine tip. The new ones only come with the fine tip, but that's plenty for coloring in, because usually it's smaller pieces you want to color in anyway. So these are really a great tool to color in. Another tool which many people always forget you can use is our regular inks. Our inks are water-based, so you can either use your ink pad, squish it a little bit, and then you will find the ink on the inside here, which you can use with a brush. Don't go with the brush directly on your ink pad, because if you have water on your brush, you're just gonna dilute the color in here. So make sure that you push it in here a little bit, or if you have all-purpose mat like this one, you can squish it on here, or use them if you have a piece of plastic or a block you normally don't use. Like I have one of these here that I normally don't use for stamping, so I can just put my color on here, then use my brush and take it off from that point. And then you color your images in just as you would with a normal pencil or watercolor. The only downside there again is if you're working with water and these colors and you're using too much water on regular cardstock, it might get wavy, because the cardstock is going to absorb the water. So that's something you want to be careful with. But there are ways to go around this, and you will see this in Coloring 101 when I go individually into each of these. Another option, the third option, would be our watercolors per se, and I'm sure you all have worked with watercolors before. And in case you wonder, so this is a piece of watercolor paper, and what I did is just I took each color and made myself a little sample so I can see what those colors actually look like, because sometimes it's a little bit deceiving to really tell what color do I have here. And the nice thing about these is you can mix them. You have these little grooves here where you can put extra color and just mix your own shades. But this is a nice basic for, I use them a lot for background coloring, or sometimes for flowers, depending on what the project is. And they work really great on watercolor paper, on the cardstock, like a white cardstock or card bases. It's a little bit tricky. You can work with them, but there are tricks to, make them work. Otherwise, they use a lot of water, and water and paper normally doesn't go well together. So that's another one. And you can find these. So these are our inks, page 89 and 99. 98 and 99, sorry. And then we were just talking about the markers. Let me see, where are markers? I just got them. The markers are on page 72, and then a bundle up here in 73. And then here we have our watercolors. And this is a relative inexpensive product. So, and like I said, it makes for great backgrounds, and you can use it for all sorts of other splashing. If you need little splashes and different colors on your pages or cards, that's a great thing to have. That's on page 71. And then we also have our watercolor pencils, and far and beyond, these are my absolute favorites. If you're a beginner and you want to try watercolors, or you want to try something different, these are the #1 tool I will recommend that you should have, because they're really easy to work with. You can work on regular cardstock. You don't need watercolor paper. They come in all different shades too, as you can see here. And they're nicely packed in this little case, and they make for great coloring tools. And if you don't like to work with the water, that's fine too. You can use them as regular pencils too, but if you know how to use them as watercolor pencils, these are my absolute favorites. So like I said, today it's just a quick video to make sure you know I'm still here. And I have, let me see, I have 3 more videos just about regular scrapbooking and card making things. So one is going to be photos and extra photo storage. One I will go in a little bit about the differences of papers, and the last one will be a few tips on stamping and how to succeed and not get frustrated. And then I will in between I will start recording some of the coloring techniques. And like I said, there are just a few things you should remember when you're working with those, and I will show you what ink for the outline to use, stamping first, and then how you can color in with those individual tools. And this is my absolute favorite, and you will see why, so stay tuned. I hope this gives you a little bit idea. I know there are so much different alcohol markers. Like I said, they quickly dry because alcohol evaporates, and then you need different shades to blend those colors in between. There is something that is called a blending tool, which actually I think has the wrong name, because it's not really a blending tool. What it is an eraser tool. So if I, for example, color this one in here, and then I take my blending tool, it acts like bleach. Yeah, I mean, I can go over the whole thing and take some of the color away, but what it literally does is just taking away some of the colors I just put down. Sometimes that can be a good thing if you need to correct a little piece, like you want to push color back a little bit. You have to let it dry, but it's not really for blending. You're blending with different shades of one color. That's how you get the blending effect, and I will show you how to. But see, this is called a blender, but it's, to me, it's an eraser, so that's more like a yeah, your bleach. Then we have the watercolor pencils, which I absolutely love and think they're the most versatile coloring tool you can have at home. If you have to decide to invest in what, this is perfect, because you can use them as regular pencils. Or the nice thing is, see how they show here a little bit of the streaks. Trick is, if you add a little bit water with a brush to it, this will all smooth out, and it looks like you colored it in with real watercolor. And the nice thing is, you can do this on regular cardstock without having to worry about warping or any other issues. So these are great. And here you can see how it gets, you can see the dots coming in more. And then another just fun tool to play with are the watercolors. And like I said, they're pretty inexpensive, but they make for great backgrounds, and especially on watercolor paper. And if you don't have the money to invest, but you still have a couple of ink pads at home, they are water-based too, so you can use your ink pads and color in. And the more water you use, the lighter the color is gonna be. But you want to be careful if you use too much water on these and you put it on regular cardstock. Remember, it's gonna maybe warp your paper, or if you put it too often on one spot and it's saturated through, it might just disintegrate. So there's a little trick with those. That's pretty much all what I want to talk about today. Just a quick one. We have other new products too, which is, for example, these oxide inks. They're also in the catalog. These are distress inks, but they're not alcohol based. So when you use those, and they're creamy consistency, really. They blend awesome. And when you spritz water on them or you go over with a brush, the color will change and it looks really like oxide. So it's really cool, again, background, I would say. But these are the newest ones on the market, so they're also in the catalog. But for beginners, this is my #1 pick. These are always good to have. Inks, if you're low on the budget, if you have inks at home, they're not alcohol inks. So like ours, water-based inks, you can color with those. And then a little bit more price on the pricier end, but still great, are those alcohol markers. And again, you need multiple shades of a color to color something in. So those tri-blends are awesome because you already got 3 shades in it. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, or find me on Facebook, or just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to help. And stay tuned for the special coloring edition of videos that are coming up. And I will try to go back on Fridays. So hang in there, and I hope to see you Friday. Thanks. Bye-bye.